To understand Australian aerospace, we have to start with a moment of absolute desperation. In 1942, during World War II, the Japanese military bombed the northern Australian city of Darwin. Australia realized they were entirely isolated. The British and Americans were too busy fighting their own wars to supply Australia with fighter planes, so the Australians decided to build their own. In an unbelievable feat of engineering, the Commonwealth Aircraft Corporation designed and built the CAC Boomerang in just 14 weeks. It was a stubby, heavily armored brawler powered by a 1,200-horsepower Pratt & Whitney twin-wasp radial engine. The Boomerang wasn't built for high-altitude dogfighting against nimble Japanese Zeros. It was a low-altitude brute. Armed with two massive 20mm Hispano cannons and 4 machine guns, it excelled at ground attack and close air support in the dense jungles of New Guinea. It proved to the world that Australia possessed the industrial capacity to build its own highly lethal war machines. After World War II, the jet age arrived, and Australia entered the jet era by purchasing from the British. Their first jet fighter was the de Havilland Vampire, a bizarre twin-boom aircraft built partially out of wood. But the real heavy lifting was done by the Gloucester Meteor F-8. The Meteor was powered by 2 Rolls-Royce Derwent turbojets, but when the Korean War kicked off in 1950, the RAAF flew the Meteor into combat and immediately ran into a terrifying reality: the Soviet swept-wing MiG-15. The Meteor's straight wings created massive aerodynamic drag at high speeds. It simply could not dogfight the Mach-capable MiGs. After taking heavy losses in MiG Alley, the Australians rapidly changed their doctrine. They stopped trying to dogfight and turned the Meteor into a dedicated ground attack jet, using its heavy 20mm nose cannons to shred enemy supply trains and convoys. But the RAAF learned a valuable lesson. They needed swept wings, and they needed them fast. To counter the Soviet threat, Australia looked to the legendary North American F-86 Sabre. But true to Australian doctrine, they didn't just buy the American jet, they completely gutted it and built a Frankenstein monster. The American Sabre used a General Electric J47 engine, producing about 5,200 pounds of thrust. The Australians thought that was too weak, so they decided to stuff a massive British Rolls-Royce Avon engine inside the airframe, which pumped out a staggering 7,500 pounds of thrust. This wasn't a simple engine swap. The Avon engine was so large and consumed so much air that CAC engineers had to completely redesign 60% of the Sabre's fuselage. They widened the massive nose intake and shifted the jet's entire center of gravity. And they didn't stop at the engine. They ripped out the 6 American .50 caliber machine guns and replaced them with 2 devastating 30mm Aden revolver cannons. The resulting aircraft, known as the CAC Sabre, was arguably the most powerful, heavily armed Sabre variant to ever fly on the planet. Entering the 1960s, the era of the supersonic interceptor arrived. Australia needed a jet that could sprint to Mach 2. Instead of buying American or British, they stunned the aerospace world by signing a deal with France. They chose the Dassault Mirage III. Manufactured locally in Australia as the Mirage III-IO, this jet was an absolute aerodynamic masterpiece. The tailless delta-wing design eliminated the drag of a rear horizontal stabilizer, allowing the jet to slice through the air and easily hit Mach 2.2. Powered by a Snecma Atar 09C turbojet, it was blisteringly fast in a straight line. For Australia, the Mirage brought true beyond-visual range capabilities. It was equipped with the French Serrano A20 radar system and the Mantra R530 radar-guided missile. For over 2 decades, the French Lady, as it was affectionately known, served as the primary defender of Australia's massive airspace, proving that European delta-wing aerodynamics were perfectly suited for high-altitude interceptions over the Pacific. But defending Australia isn't just about shooting down bombers, it is about projecting power thousands of miles away. In 1973, Australia took delivery of an aircraft that would become an absolute cultural icon, the General Dynamics F-111C, affectionately known to the Aussies as the Pig. The F-111 wasn't a dogfighter, it was a massive, variable sweep-wing tactical strike bomber. It solved the tyranny of distance by carrying an absurd amount of internal fuel. An Australian F-111 could take off from northern Australia, fly deep into Southeast Asia, deliver 30,000 pounds of laser-guided bombs, and return home entirely unrefueled. The Pig was a technological marvel. It featured incredibly advanced terrain-following radar coupled directly to the autopilot. An Australian pilot could fly at Mach 1.2 just 200 feet off the deck in pitch-black darkness, and the computer would automatically fly the jet up and down over the mountains to avoid enemy radar. But the F-111 is most famous for its party trick, the dump and burn. Because the fuel dump mast was located directly between the twin TF-30 afterburning engines, pilots could vent raw fuel and ignite it, trailing a massive, blinding pillar of fire behind the jet. The F-111 gave Australia an undisputed strategic strike capability that kept the entire region in check for almost 40 years. As the Mirages aged out, Australia needed a true multi-role fighter, something that could dogfight, drop precision bombs, and operate reliably in the extreme heat of the outback. In 1985, they chose the McDonnell Douglas F/A-18 Hornet. The classic Hornet brought extreme high angle of attack maneuverability to the RAAF, but as technology advanced into the 21st century, Australia needed an upgrade. They acquired the larger, heavier, and far more advanced Boeing F/A-18F Super Hornet. The Super Hornet completely digitized the Australian battlespace. Equipped with the APG-79 Active Electronically Scanned Array Radar, the Super Hornet can track dozens of targets simultaneously, completely immune to traditional enemy jamming. To complement this, Australia became the only country outside the United States to operate the EA-18G Growler. The Growler is a dedicated electronic warfare fighter. It doesn't use guns to fight. It uses highly classified ALQ-99 jamming pods to completely fry enemy radar systems and surface-to-air missile sites, rendering the enemy completely blind before the strike package even arrives. Today, the RAAF operates the undisputed king of modern aerial warfare, the fifth-generation Lockheed Martin F-35A Lightning II. The F-35 is not just a stealth fighter, it is a flying supercomputer. With its advanced sensor fusion, the F-35 acts as the quarterback of the sky. It absorbs massive amounts of data and shares targeting information across the entire Allied battlefield. Its radar cross-section is the size of a golf ball, allowing it to penetrate heavily defended airspace completely undetected. But Australia isn't just buying the future, they are building it. Enter the Boeing MQ-28 Ghost Bat. This is the first combat aircraft entirely designed and built in Australia in over 50 years. The Ghost Bat isn't a remote-controlled drone. It is a highly advanced, autonomous, artificial intelligence loyal wingman. Designed to fly alongside the F-35 and Super Hornets, the Ghost Bat can be ordered to fly ahead of the man jets to absorb enemy fire, jam radar networks, or act as an external missile truck. Its entire nose section can be rapidly swapped out on the tarmac to change its payload in minutes. It is the ultimate digital force multiplier. Defending the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Australian continent has always required exceptional engineering, from stuffing massive British engines into American airframes to deploying terrifying heavy strike bombers and autonomous AI wingmen. The Royal Australian Air Force has built a legacy of aerospace dominance that perfectly counters the tyranny of distance. Which era of Australian fighter jets is your absolute favorite? Are you taking the Frankenstein Sabre, the Mach II Mirage, or the legendary F-111 Aardvark? Let me know down in the comments. If you want to dive deeper into the capabilities of the world's greatest jets, check out our massive documentary on the most powerful fighter jet from every country right here. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, and as always, thanks for watching Flight King.